All right, hello everyone. It is now 8 o'clock, so we're just going to get rolling here. Real quick, I do want to mention, I asked everyone for some feedback on the Hangouts over this past week, and you guys gave me some great feedback, so thank you for that. One of the specific items of feedback that I'm going to try is taking the Hangouts and breaking them up into smaller video clips that are basically titled after what the subject or question is and then the answer. So that way it's a little bit easier to find the specific question and the video answer than just trying to look at through, I guess I'm almost up to 75 videos at this point. So if you notice there's like a dramatic pause between different questions and segments, it's because I'm just kind of pausing so there's a good space to kind of cut the video and start from that point going forward. So just keep that in mind, please. All right, so, well, it is Wednesday, so happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great night. Let's see. So, all right, to the routine stuff. Let me just make sure this is the case before all right, I do have the Q&A portion turned on the right-hand side. There is a delay between when you ask me a question and when I see it. So, please ask early before I end the Hangout. If you wait till the last second, I'm probably not going to see it. If that happens, or if you think of a question after I've ended the Hangout, you're free to ask me anytime. I'd be more than happy to answer for you. Or if you'd specifically like me to answer on the next Hangout, just please say so and I'll do that. All right. So I have two primary topics that I'd like to go over. And the first topic is going to be hunger and food choices. All right, so as I hope you know by now, I'm not very strict about food choices. As long as you're getting adequate calories, hitting your fiber and protein goals, then I believe that the best strategy for long-term adherence is going to be ensuring that you include foods that you love. Depriving yourself of foods that you love leads to craving them, eventually caving in, since willpower is a finite resource that should be conserved for when it's truly needed. And once you do cave in, you're less likely to eat that specified craved food in a reasonable portion or with any moderation. Once you do overeat that craved food, you're then likely to feel guilty about it and then go back to being incredibly strict. This basically starts the entire vicious cycle all over again. So this is how most people approach fitness and weight loss. So if that sounds like you, it's important to recognize that you're stuck in that cycle and that you can break out of it by working toward flexibility and away from the all or nothing mentality. There are some exceptions to this rule, such as binge triggers. There are unfortunately going to be some foods that cause you to overeat or to eat the entire box, no matter what they are. It's important that you identify these foods and remain aware of what they are. For most people, these foods are ones that are going to be created by food scientists in a lab to be hyperpalatable. That means that they are likely some combination of fat, salt, and sugar in various amounts that trigger you to keep eating as they are lighting up the reward centers in your brain. If you feel powerless when faced with these foods, it's because they've been created this way. That's the intended effect. It's not something wrong with you. You eat them in large quantities, you buy more, and then they sell more of this nutritionless product because it's cheap to make and it's high profit margin. And that's by design. As they don't provide much, if any, nutrition, and if your food choices consist entirely of convenient foods like this, you could be eating at a surplus of calories while your body is literally starving from a lack of vitamins and minerals that you need to be nourished and feel good. There's a big difference between surviving and thriving. My hope is that if you're listening, that you're thriving and not just surviving. So with that said, the best way to combat hunger is a combination of food choices and your habits around food. As far as food choices go, I usually ask that you don't track your green, fibrous vegetables and eat as much as you like. When you fill up your plate for a meal, try to make half of it vegetables, and then split the remaining half with a lean protein source, and then if you have room for it, a side dish of your choosing. For example, for me, that's usually potatoes. Potatoes are like probably the most filling food in the world if you don't load them down with a bunch of fat, like cheese and butter and things like that. Personally, I never thought I'd be saying this 8 years ago, but sweet potatoes are one of my favorite side dish. And I learned this from Emerald, who'll probably never hear me say that again, is garlic salt on sweet potatoes is amazing. Just plain sweet potato in the microwave, mash it up and throw some garlic salt on there. It's very tasty. So eating mostly plants, but vegetables and fruit, will fill you up and fill your stomach up by being high volume foods, while also being lower in calories. They also are, generally high in fiber. Lean protein will also help keep you full. As these food choices provide a ton of nutrition for fewer calories than any alternatives, you can eat more of them, and as a result, you will feel fuller all the time. So the reason I keep saying more food and high volume foods is that our stomachs release signals to the brain to stop eating when our stomachs are so full that they start to stretch out. So the basic premise here is you eat these high volume, low calorie foods, and your stomach actually gets filled to the stretching point and starts to stretch. When that happens, your brain gets a signal that says, I'm full, stop eating. So if you eat with that being the goal, to get a huge amount of vitamins and minerals and feel full by eating high volume foods, you'll be well on your way to conquering your hunger and well on your way to greater health as a side effect. So since I mentioned eating habits, the primary eating habit that's going to help here is slowing down. As we just talked about, our stomachs release a signal to the brain to stop eating when it's physically full and stretched out. So it's important to realize that there is a delay between when your stomach sends that signal up to your brain. So you may eat a huge meal that's very filling and stretching your stomach out, and you may still feel hungry in your head. So when that happens, take a pause, get up, walk around, do something else, distract yourself for 5 minutes, and your brain will likely then get the message over a short period of time that, hey, I'm full, you don't need to send any more food here, please stop eating. But if you're eating, sitting down in front of the TV and scarfing food down like it's an eating contest, it's going to take, you're going to get the message that it's full when it's basically too late. You'll have already overeaten at that point. So slowing down by not watching TV, chewing every single bite and enjoying the taste of it, and practicing mindfulness by focusing on your eating, and also focusing on the company you're eating with, if you have someone you're eating with, will allow you to gradually feel full over time, and as well as appreciate the meal more and appreciate the flavors more. So if you find yourself hungry all of the time, but are also able to finish your meal in like a couple seconds, then you are not giving your body the time it needs to basically start the digestion process and send that signal up to your brain to stop eating. So this became apparent to me when I go to a hibachi restaurant. I normally am a fast eater just out of habit for so long. I've gotten better about it, but I still eat rather fast. So sometimes we'll go to a hibachi restaurant, or as my daughter calls it, that place where they cook in front of you. So I try to use chopsticks when I'm there to eat the entire meal, including rice. So I don't normally use chopsticks any other time. I'm not normally a fan of like Chinese takeout or anything. So that's pretty much the only occasion when I'll use chopsticks. So it's not like I'm well practiced at using them. So since I'm trying to eat everything with chopsticks, including the rice, it takes me a lot longer to eat than if I had a fork or spoon. As a result, I'm now usually the last person to finish my meal, as when normally I'm still the first person to finish when I'm practicing mindfulness and slowing down. But I also feel incredibly full at that point, when even if you just look at the calories and the amount of food consumed, it's much less than I would normally eat for the most part, excluding any of their yum yum sauce. That's a decent amount of calories there. So if you're looking for a way to force yourself to slow down, you can always try chopsticks, or even easier, rather than trying to eat some foods that are not made for chopsticks, you could switch from your primary hand to the other one. So I'm right-handed. If I switch to my left hand, it's incredibly difficult. So if you try this, you probably want to wear a bib the first few times just to catch anything that's falling on your shirt. Given that my beard catches all that type of thing, I don't really need to use a bib, but that's one of the benefits of having a large beard. So, all right. So lastly on this topic, many people do feel hungry when they're really thirsty. So it's important to ensure that you're getting enough fluids. This is one thing I like to do myself, and other people have told me that this worked really well for them, as opposed to trying to track every ounce of water you drink, is that I love coffee, and I drink coffee all day long, up to about is that every single time I go for a coffee, I first make sure to have a really big glass of water, and I drink the entire glass of water pretty quickly before I start with the coffee, before I even fill up the coffee mug. And like I said, and it's much easier than trying to say, okay, well, how many ounces fit in this glass? I need to drink 18 of these glasses, blah blah blah. It's just make it a habit when you want to drink something that's like coffee, just also drink a glass of water as well. And I also recommend, getting a glass of water when you first wake up too. So, all right, on to the next topic. So this topic is regarding sleep habits. So there are a few people that have asked me about good sleep habits and ensuring that they are getting enough good quality sleep when they have varying shifts at work, or they have to work something like a 24-hour shift. So since this topic was a little bit beyond my experience, and I'm personally useless if I don't get 7 hours of sleep, that has more experience with this than I do. And this is the chief science officer for a group of coaches that I collaborate with. So if you're watching this, thank you for the information, Audrey. So Audrey provided me with a ton of information. And if you're interested in greater details, please let me know and I'll provide them to you through email or whatever. But I'm going to summarize this into some basic cliff notes for now. So our sleep is broken up into 4 types of sleep, and we cycle through them in 90 to 120-minute intervals. That's going to vary person to person, but my understanding is that your intervals are pretty constant, meaning you might have to play around with it and try to figure it out for yourself. But if you are a person that has 90-minute cycles between your sleep schedule, it's consistently 90 minutes. So the first phase is light sleep, and this is kind of like the twilight phase between being awake and falling asleep. So if you wake up in this stage, it's like you never went to sleep at all. The second phase is medium sleep, where there's no dreaming and you wake up really easy. And this is the phase where you want to target waking up in that phase. The third phase is deep sleep, and this is where your best quality rest comes in. This is where your body repairs itself. There's no dreaming at all, or if it is, it's really nonsensical dreams. But you definitely don't want to wake up in this stage. If you do wake up in this stage, you'll likely feel really bad for at least 30 to 60 minutes. Anecdotally, personally, if I wake up in this stage, I feel horrible for 24 hours. But like I said, I'm one of those babies about sleep where I feel better on 10 hours of sleep than I do on 6 or 7. So that's a little bit personal as to how much sleep you need and how long it'll take you to recover from being woken up in the third phase of deep sleep. And the fourth and final phase is REM sleep, rapid eye movement. And that's where we have dreams. How you feel if you're woken up in the middle of a dream like this, it's going to, again, vary person to person. So basically, you don't want to be woken up in the third phase of deep sleep, because that's where your best quality rest is coming from, the best bang for your buck for being asleep. So how can you use this information to get the most restful sleep? So estimate the time you have for sleep and schedule to wake up between the cycles so that you avoid that deep sleep grogginess. Depending on how much time you have, your sleeping time may actually have to be shorter in order to be more effective. So meaning, like, you'd have to figure out, and I'll give you some information about that in a second, but you have to figure out, let's say you needed to make sure you're not waking up in phase 3, you might actually have to sleep a half an hour less so that you wake up in phase 2 and actually feel better as a result. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that's how sleep cycles work. So there is a great calculator for this called Sleepy Time. You can Google Sleepy Time, but the link is sleepyti.me. Please check it out. It'll really help you kind of get into the mindset of making sleep work for you rather than feeling like you're constantly needing to get more sleep all the time. And again, part of that is waking up and going to bed at the right time so that you're making the sleep cycle work for you instead of working against it. It's a natural part of your body, your circadian rhythms. You should make it work for you and get the benefit of incredibly restful sleep. Simply getting more sleep is not enough, because you might actually be doing more harm than good by just trying to brute force more sleep when the answer is more restful sleep. So back to the specific question or problem of what do I do with a 24-hour shift, is that my hope would be that you have some breaks built into that. So let's say you have 30 minutes or so for a break. Put a 30-minute alarm on your phone to account for the amount of time to fall asleep, the idea being that you're going to get a 20-minute nap. This is not going to put you into a deep sleep, so you'll avoid that grogginess, but it'll likely put you into the second phase of sleep, which will still allow you to get some rest while avoiding that problem. So it'll actually, as long as you can space some of these 20-minute naps out throughout the 24-hour shift, it should continuously refresh you and allow you to get close to 100% of your mental alertness that you need. So as far as what else to do, try to get a good 8 to 10 hours of sleep right after that 24-hour shift, and also the night before if possible. The bad news is that all of the information that's available that I'm aware of, or that Audrey was aware of, is that 24-hour shifts are not great for your health and well-being. Same with shifts where you're constantly changing your schedule. They're not great. Obviously, people that work these shifts are like first responders, doctors, nurses, and our society needs those people. So we all thank you for being willing to work those types of shifts. But the information about that is that they're not great for your health. But again, someone has to do it, and we do appreciate that. All right, that basically covers the two topics that I wanted to get into. Let me just check and see if any more questions have been asked. All right, I'm not seeing any additional questions. Like I said, if you come up with any more questions, please let me know. And if you specifically want it mentioned in the Hangout, just say that. Any feedback on the Hangouts, I'd love to hear it. And look, soon I'll be able to post this Hangout broken up into the segments, the questions that will be titled as such, so it should be easier to go back. I'm hoping I can find the time to go back through the previous 75 Hangouts and do the same thing, just so that any questions that have been asked before, you can easily find them instead of not having any idea. I was kind of previously doing that by basically taking my notes and rewriting them to be a little bit more coherent, but that was incredibly tedious. It's probably easier to edit the videos because I can, I'm not to be perfect. So, all right, well, everyone, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.